questions for Astros General Manager Dana Brown. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, Dana. Thanks for getting on with us. Can you just take us through how the Correa deal came together?
Yeah, I mean, look, so, at the end of the day, we were, kind of looking for a bat. And, we knew that we could also use an infielder. And so, we felt like, Correa would be a good fit. So we started working through it. And, look, this guy's done a lot here. He's been very successful here. And so this thing came together. We had talked, earlier in the week, about certain bats, and knowing that he was available, and knowing that, he would give our clubhouse a charge, give the city a charge. This was a guy that, we started to talk more closely about, and then it started to come together.
Dana, I have two real quick. First, just is Eso Pares going to play this season?
Well, look, so as far as Isak is concerned, we had talked about that this injury was a little bit more significant than we had first anticipated. And so he's going to get his second opinion. And once we get the second opinion, we could say for sure. But right now, we could just tell you that it was more significant. And the second opinion is coming up soon. And so we'll have more answers for you there. But it is more significant than we had anticipated.
And then can you go into how hard you guys pursued pitching additions and maybe some of the lengths you went to try to add either a reliever or a starter?
Yeah, I think the pitching additions was the biggest part of our grind. We just felt like the asking prices were too high. And we know that we have a bunch of starters coming back. And so that was an area where we knew we were getting some help, and then in terms of the bats, the two bats that we got, we knew we had to, potentially get another bat in the infield. And so we got that in the utility role with Ursius. And then, when we felt like Correa became available, look, that really made the difference. And, we pursued that bat. And so getting the bat was really important. And then the addition of Sanchez, getting that left-hand bat that I talked about earlier, we felt that was big, adding Sanchez to the mix as well. So the fact that we added 3 bats and we know that we have, some arms coming, we felt really good about this.
Matt, did you have another one? Christy, go ahead.
Can you talk about Correa's willingness to change positions and how you think that will play out since he's only played shortstop in his entire career?
Yeah, listen, you guys all know that Correa is a warrior. He'll do whatever he has to do to win, and you get players like this, when they get to a certain part of their career, they know that sometimes you would have this position change and you're going to be on a team that's, winning in first place and you got a chance to win. And the fact that he's coming back to a familiar city, I mean, I'm sure, that's very appetizing. And so, ultimately, this guy is a warrior. He's a team first guy. And, we had no doubts, knowing the human being and the makeup, that, he would make that adjustment.
McTaggart. You there, McTaggart, or no? All right, we'll go to Dan Matthews.
Yeah, Dana, where do you guys see, or how do you guys see yourselves using Urias and Sanchez?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I think as far as Sanchez is concerned, he's going to play the outfield. He'll play a bunch of left every now and then and right when we want to give, Smith a break. But I think he's going to get some time in left field, which means, Altuve is going to play some second base. And if he plays right field, we'll give Cam Smith the day off. Sanchez is going to get some playing time in that way. It's a left-hand bat. If we want to, he's going to get these at bats against the righties. So we could, he's going to get at bats there. And then Arias, look, this guy can fill in and give guys a day off. Whether it's Altuve or Dubon at second, he can give him a day off. He could give, Correa a breather at third. And so we just added to our depth, with our position players. And so there's going to be plenty of playing time.
Chandler?
I'm good, Shaq.
Let's go to Matt Thomas.
Dana, a quick question about the salary situation coming back from Minnesota. Was that a fluctuating situation the whole time? Because clearly you wanted to protect your prospects, and when you ask another team to help shed a part of a salary, that's going to come with it. So can you talk us through as much as you can how much of the money was a negotiating point in the Correa trade?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to get into the money and too much into, how that was split up. But I would say this, that, look, we feel like Correa is bringing value. And with that, we felt like, we were going to be aggressive with it. And so we felt like this guy is affordable. And, so we went all in. And so, look, this adding this caliber of a player, it's going to be a cost. But, we felt, good about on our end. We felt good about, what this whole thing was going to play out to be. And at the end of the day, we feel like this is going to be a good situation for us in the Astros here.
Jesus Ortiz.
Dana, when you think about your rotation, what are the projections? When are some of your reinforcements coming up?
Yeah, I mean, we got Arrighetti coming up next week. We have Javier right behind him. We have Garcia right behind, Javier. So those are three starters right there. Given the first two, those guys are going to be here pretty quickly. So we feel like the reinforcement of the starters that are coming off the IL allowed us to even focus a little bit more on getting some bats for this team so we can score some runs. And pitching has been a big strength of ours, particularly in the first half. And so, adding these bats was probably a lot more important.
Dana, and if I could follow up, obviously you guys are leading the AL West. You're one of the best teams in the American League as far as the standings are concerned. But were people trying to get Framber Valdez from you at any point, or how interested were other teams in him? Because I know up to a couple of weeks ago, teams were interested in him.
Yeah, I mean, no one called during these meetings about him. I mean, I guess people figured that, look, they were gonna need Valdez down the stretch, and so really there was really no conversation about Valdez, and we weren't looking to move him. So I think teams understood that we were right here in the thick of things, and we're up by 5 games, and no one asked for our top of the rotation starter.
Thank you, Dana.
You're very welcome.
Correa's sort of performance, I guess, production over the last few years has been a little bit up and down, and obviously he's missed a little bit of time. Just what was your guys' sort of assessment of where he's at right now, and just kind of what he's going to add to you, especially from the offensive side?
Yeah, I mean, look, this year he's been posting, so we feel good about that. And look, getting him back into a familiar ballpark, which is a hitters-friendly ballpark, and with familiar faces and familiar coaches, we felt like we're going to get a boost for that, and just to get a boost of more energy. And so, this is one of those situations where we think that he's going to come in here and really pick up where he left off and be a real good addition to this club. So we're excited about what he's going to do here.
And then just can you kind of characterize as this kind of got more and more serious and down to the wire, just how involved Jim Crane was just in kind of finalizing this?
Yeah, like any player acquisitions, whether it's the draft or whether it's the trade deadline or whether it's off-season moves, you always inform your owner as to what your thought processes are. And so when we got to a certain point and we started to really hone in and think about the moves that we were going to make, we would always fill Jim in and give him an assessment of what our thoughts were. And so we included him and got him involved and said, look, this is what we're planning to do. And we got his blessing and we moved forward. And so, that's the beauty of, having an owner like Jim. He's committed to winning, and he's really laser focused on, look, what we're going to do, and he gets involved to the point where he wants you to just fill him in, and he gives us the freedom and the flexibility to make the decisions. And so, it's been great having his support, when we want to make these type of moves. And so we let him know what our thought process was, and he was on board.
Mithy, do you have another one?
Yes, I do. Dana, how would you sum up how all of these moves that you made yesterday and today put your team and where your team is at as you head down the stretch?
Yes, as I was saying a little earlier, we really felt like we had the pitching coming back, and so these moves, from a hitting standpoint, and you guys have been watching us all year, we felt like we really needed to get some offense, at least to bridge the gap until Alvarez comes back, and we're getting Pena back, probably in tomorrow's game. That would be a good thing. And so we felt like we had some reinforcement coming back on the hitting side, but we wanted to really focus in on the bats. And in the meantime, if we had an opportunity to get an arm, we would do it. But as I said earlier, the asking prices for the arms seem to be pretty high. And knowing that we had some arms coming back, we stuck with the bats. And these bats, we feel like going to make a pretty good impact on our offense, help us score some runs and win some games.
Will?
Hey, Dana. You kind of touched on it there quickly, but is there like a stronger message from Jim during this time of year, just being like, just go out and get this. We want to do that. Like anything specific that you can touch on?
No, I mean, with Jim, it's mainly do your job, and then we fill him in on what our thought process is, and he'll give his opinion, and give us his blessing. But for the most part, it's like, get after it, do your job, and just kind of fill me in on what your thoughts are and what you plan to do. And so, we certainly got his blessing. He's very supportive, and he's committed to the Astros being successful and winning.
Stanley?
Dana, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but what does getting Sanchez and Urias, like, what does that mean for Altuve defensively, and kind of how much will he maybe move around a little bit more than we've seen him earlier this season?
Yeah, so Altuve will get at bats at second, at left, and he'll get some DH at bats, which we feel is important to give him some rest. And while Alvarez is out, he'll get probably more DH at bats. He'll play left field for the most part when there's a left-handed starter. Those will probably be some days where we can rest Sanchez. And so Altuve will still, be an everyday player and get a ton of at bats. But, ultimately, we felt like we were adding depth with these bats. And so we feel like this is a good thing for the club.
And Matthews?
Yeah, Dana, forgive me if you've touched on this already, but you talk all the time about mind on the present and the future. How huge is it to get the three guys that you got over these 2 days that still have multiple years of club control?
Yes, as you stated, I always try to operate in the present and in the future, because, our philosophy here, led by Jim Crane, is that the window's always open. And so, we laid focus on that. And that was probably part of the reason we didn't do much more on the pitching side, We thought, some of the prices were a little high. And so, we felt like, look, we don't want to mortgage the future. So, pound what we could pound with the bats, and then, allow what we have coming back from the pitching side to be a part of it. And so definitely operating in those two realms at the same time, all the time.
Francisco.
Thanks, Shaq. Hey, boss, congratulations on the Correa pick. Just two questions for you. What do you think is going to be the contributions in the locker room, in the clubhouse? I'm sorry, with Correa, his leadership, both for the young guys and of course for the veterans. And also, I wanted to touch bases with you from the past couple of days, boss, about the injury situations with the Astros. Have you been able to talk to? Have the staff, the medical staff, and you guys talk to us to what things needs to change in order to try to fix or avoid injuries, having the Astros over 16, 17 players on the IL?
Yeah, look, so ultimately, we feel like the contributions that Correa is going to make are significant in the clubhouse, in the city with the fan base. They're very familiar with him. He has big time leadership skills. And so we're really excited about that. Make no mistake about it, he's a winner, and we think that's all really good for this club. In terms of injuries, look, there's a heavy amount of injuries throughout the entire industry, and so anytime, and I've said this in the past, that you have a club that's been to the postseason, 8 consecutive years, you're playing more games than most other teams. And you're putting a toll on your guys, and just to play all of these games every year, you're gonna have guys go down. You don't want to be the team that have 5 or 4 guys hurt and never get to the postseason. So I just think injuries is a part of this game, particularly when you play a lot of baseball and you're starting off in March and you're going all the way through October. Injuries are going to be a part of the game. As to my assessment of all of these injuries, I would say, look, we'll evaluate and continue to figure out where we can get better, in terms of, making the assessment of these injuries. But make no mistake, injuries are a part of the game.
Yeah, we have time for one more. Go ahead, Kim Davis.
Hey, Dana, you may have already addressed this, but can you talk about how much this does for the club, where it is now as you go on this home stretch? I mean, is it, I won't say everything you wanted, but can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a big energy boost for us right now. Particularly coming off a few losses during our homestand. We got those last 2 games, which we felt really good about. But now you get the trade deadline with a day off. You get to hit reset, and you have Correa coming back to the city. You have him stepping into that locker room. A lot of familiar faces, close-knit guys like family members. He brings energy every day to the ballpark, and so this is a big move for the team, for the city, for where we're going in the future. And we feel like we added this guy, and he's just going to bring a lot, not only as a player, but as a human being, and his leadership skills and the energy that he's going to bring to this club. So I'm fired up because I've only known him, as an opponent. And I remember when I was with the Braves, we played against you guys, and I'm just dying to meet this guy. And I've heard so many great things about him, and I've seen his actions on the field. He brings it every day.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Dana. Thank you to the media for joining us for this call. Y'all have
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Take care.